It's 1999. Again, the dot-com bubble is nearing its apex. Many websites got their start around this time. I made a video about one already. Many of these websites saw brief success, but quickly faded. College Humor was not one of these sites. College freshmen Josh Abramson and Ricky Van Veen had a vision. It's a vision many college freshmen have, that of making a shitload of money. At this time, making a shitload of money as two young upstarts was synonymous with the web and dot-com startups. So this was the natural path for the two young entrepreneurs. The only question is, what kind of web business should or could they start? Well, content-driven sites like joecartoon.com
Yeah, loser. Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Hey, look, I'm hamster dancing.
were the ones getting the big ad revenue. But then, what kind of content could they provide? What kind of content could two college kids provide? What do college kids like? Substance abuse, frat parties, hollow protests, debt. No. What about jokes? College. And jokes. College. Jokes. CollegeHumor.com was born. To be serious, the idea for College Humor is quite simple and yet quite clever. College students are a great audience, especially back then when they probably had more access to the internet than most demographics did. And college students have plenty of time to waste on silly, frivolous articles, images, etc. that appeal to their senses of humor. Naturally, the site, which originally consisted of College Humor's images, videos, and links, and other content either made by themselves or obtained through emails circulating the college ecosystem, blew up. There was no social media at the time, and even search engines were primitive. This is pre-Google. As such, content aggregator sites were very popular. Rather than having to go to a bunch of different sites and scouring for your daily dose of female objectification, car crash gifs, and refrigerators filled with beer, you can just check collegehumor.com on the daily and get it all at once. College Humor got pretty big, pretty fast, and they continued to expand throughout the 2000s. In 2006, they even published a book. From beer pong to final exams, from instant messaging to hooking up with people whose last names are complete mysteries, the College Humor Guide to College is the Bible to getting through college with the minimum work and maximum fun. More importantly, also in 2006, they launched a YouTube channel. This would become College Humor's lasting legacy. There's a lot to say about College Humor's time on YouTube. When they launched it, College Humor already seemed to be at the top of the world. Some of their first videos starred real comedians, like John Mulaney, Michael Showalter, Human Giant, and Mike and Andy, the brothers behind the hit Flash cartoon College University. No, I've never heard of that either, but I assume the guys at College Humor saw college in the title and immediately commissioned Clocksuckers. By the way, this predates Hot Tub Time Machine. Big plagiarism suit incoming for a 20-year-old Flash cartoon against a 15-year-old movie. Their YouTube channel lasted about 15 years, and in that time YouTube changed a lot, and College Humor changed along with it. I mean, just compare some of the oldest hardly working sketches to the later ones, or just look at the video titles, and thumbnails, and everything. The subject matter started out similar to the website. It's all about beer, boobs, and video games. They were really throwing everything at the wall at this point. Over time, the scope narrowed and the demographics shifted to the point where, by 2015, the audience was more similar to BuzzFeed's than the frat bro type they had been aiming at before. College Humor rebranded to Dropout in 2020. It's apparently very popular. I wouldn't be surprised if many fans of Dropout don't even know what College Humor was. But this video isn't about Dropout. More important to the story of this video is Jake and Amir, the breakout stars of College Humor's video division. Jake and Amir are a comedy duo who were hired by College Humor in 2007 and feature prominently in College Humor's two longest running and probably most successful series, Jake and Amir and Hardly Working. Jake and Amir had their smooth, youthful fingers firmly on the pulse of millennial comedy, and clearly their style resonated with College Humor's demographic. Quickly, video became the center of College Humor's empire, and it all revolved around Jake and Amir. Video series like Hardly Working are now the main area of growth for the College Humor website, even as features like Cute College Girl of the Day continue to attract web surfers, according to Josh Abramson, 27, a founder and president of the site. It was off this success that College Humor got the opportunity to create what is the actual topic of this video. They started as a humor aggregate site, then they made original web series. The next domain for them to conquer was a movie. But despite having one in the works since before their TV show was produced, College Humor didn't actually produce a movie until 2013 with Coffee Town. That could be another video. Oh, and apparently Dropout is producing a new feature film too now. Fine. Anyways, in 2009, College Humor tried to break out of the internet and fully into the mainstream when they were given the opportunity to develop a series for MTV, taking the premise of their Hardly Working shorts and stretching it into the format of a 22-minute workplace sitcom, a la The Office. College Humor staff members say they expect the television show, and a long-delayed movie project, will enhance their attempts to be a next-generation National Lampoon. The College Humor show was created by Sam Grossman, who previously worked on Human Giant's MTV sketch show, Ricky Van Veen, one of College Humor's two original co-founders, who seemed to be the one more involved in the content side, former head writer of the Andy Dick Show Scott Tomlinson, and director of College Humor TV Sam Reich, who, by the way, now owns Dropout, College Humor's aforementioned successor. In an interview anticipating the premiere of this show, he shared his direction for College Humor as a whole. Over the past few years, we've made painstaking efforts to transform the brand from something chauvinistic and sophomoric into something smart and interesting. The show is an opportunity to complete that transformation. Whether the show itself lived up to this creed we'll soon see, but considering after this show premiered, College Humor was still releasing videos with titles and thumbnails like Girls Buy Condoms, again, we'll see. Just one more thing before we get into reviewing the actual show. There's something I really ought to bring up. Now, this is something controversial. It may make some people angry, but we need to address it, so I'll ask you to try to be respectful. Did the 2019 live-action Dora movie rip off the College Humor web series? I mean, look at it. I suppose it's an easy jump to make. She's an explorer, so maybe it's logical to just turn it into an adventure movie aping Indiana Jones, but let me know. Okay, now to the review. Each episode begins with a cold open sketch with the frame of being a College Humor HR department case file. Basically, it's just a minute-long Hardly Working sketch. How funny these are varies, mostly by whether or not Jake and Amir are the focus of it. After that, we're introduced to the show's main cast, who are Ricky Van Veen, the co-founder of College Humor. The other co-founder is not name dropped, they just say
he and his friends started a comedy website for beer money.
Sam Reich, manager. Jake Hurwitz, junior writer. Amir Blumenfeld, senior writer. Dan Gurewitz, senior writer. Sarah Schneider, senior writer. Streeter Seidel, front page editor. Jeff Rubin, managing editor. And Patrick Castles, junior writer. The first thing you might notice when watching this show is how cheap it looks. It's supposed to be adapting their web shorts to a sitcom more like The Office, but this does not look like The Office or any network sitcom. I won't say it looks worse than the actual Hardly Working web shorts from this period, because it doesn't. It looks mostly the same, or slightly better, but the changed context and format make it somehow feel worse. I can say that this does absolutely look worse than web shorts made just a few years later. It just seems like they were expected to just do the whole show themselves and then hand it over to MTV, which is odd when it's supposed to be a real 22-minute sitcom, not just shorts they put between commercials or something. I mean, they didn't even get a real TV director in here. The whole series was directed by Sam Reich, and you can tell. It's simply not put together. It's written not like a sitcom, but like self-taught internet comics trying to piece together the facsimile of a sitcom.
Whoa! Traffic to the site's down 50%.
Shish kebab, since when?
Well, I guess since the last time it was down 50%.
We can't let Ricky see that.
Too late!
It's like a bunch of kids trying to play at being adults. Punctuating the unrealness of the show is the appearance of real actor and comic Nick Kroll. The first episode, entitled Rival Site, guest stars Kroll as Chuck Paulson,
Who dat is?
He runs gigglebarn.biz.
What that is?
owner of gigglebarn.biz, a rival humor site. The A-plot of the episode is about Kroll's character winning Pat in a poker game, and Pat trying to escape back to College Humor. Pat isn't the worst actor in the cast. That's probably Sam. But not only is he upstaged by Kroll's charisma, he's kinda upstaged by the other random actors hired to play bit parts. Almost like a real sitcom, we switch back and forth between the A-plot and the lower stakes B-plot. The B-plot of the first episode aptly revolves around a typical college humor subject, beer pong, as Streeter tries to train Jake and Jeff at the sport. Jake and Jeff, not Jake and Amir, because they're not allowed the joy of seeing their proven comedic chemistry more than once or twice an episode. This B-plot is eventually connected to the A-plot by having the College Humor crew win Pat back in the end in a beer pong tournament. In addition to the A and B plots of each episode, we're also subject to more little shorts which would fit well on College Humor's YouTube channel. These range from sorta funny to Sam Reich rapping. The first episode has 3 of these shorts. Presumably they were really running short on the length of the episode, as most of the others have only 1 short, if any. The second episode, Interns, is about the College Humor staff getting interns. And they're all hot chicks. Wow. Except Amir, who once again has the funniest bits. I feel bad for Sarah as the token woman of the cast. I feel like this show would gain a lot from at least 2 female voices. Anyways, the number of interns in the office continues to grow on its own, leading to a sort of zombie movie parody. Eventually they manage to get rid of the interns by having Dan just talk to them.
I tried to learn the bassoon, but I just didn't have the lips for it. I mean, give me a French horn, it's like, woo! But bassoon, I think it's the reeds.
Wait, aren't brass instruments harder on your lips than reed instruments? Like, you need a very particular lip posture for brass instruments that you don't with... Never mind. This episode doesn't have any interstitial shorts, B-plots, or guest stars. It's all interns. This is probably the best episode of the series, just because of how absurd the premise is. Episode 3 is about the College Humor crew going to a party, the crowning of America's hottest college girl. Sam Reich is clearly doing a good job eliminating the sexism from the show, where Pat and Streeter apparently and murdered the girl. I mean, obviously this is going to be subverted, but that's hypothetically what is suggested by the opening scene.
Come here, hold still.
What are you doing? Get off me!
Hold on one sec.
Help me!
Alright, game over!
Patrick?
Ow! What'd you do? What'd you do?
Streeter? Oh my god.
In the end, it turns out to be a big misunderstanding. Episode 4 is Sarah's new boyfriend. Sarah gets a new boyfriend, and he's British, and pretty suave. However, the College Humor boys disapprove, and want to get her a different boyfriend. The B-plot is about Streeter's parents getting divorced, him becoming goth, and Jake having to work with Amir, oh no. Ironically, this is one of the only episodes for which neither Jake nor Amir have a writing credit. Maybe Sarah recognized that everyone just wants to see Jake and Amir. Eventually, Streeter learns his parents aren't getting divorced, and he goes back to normal. And they successfully set Sarah up with a magician. This episode is pretty weak even for this series. It feels less punchy, kinda sleepy. I kinda like the short where Streeter becomes nu metal though. For some reason, the download I had for the show is missing episode 5, and I didn't feel like searching for it. It's called Hot Girl, and presumably that's what it's about. I'm fine with missing it. The season finale, which is just episode 6, it's a very short show, is called Armageddon, and it's about the College Humor crew misinterpreting the site going down temporarily at 6 for the site going down permanently. Since they think it's all ending, anything goes in the College Humor offices. Sam and Jeff destroy the office, Dan works on a bucket list, Pat daydreams about being a beloved hero, and Jake and Amir try to come up with ideas for a new website. I also found this episode pretty weak. The show was only picked up for one 6-episode season. After the episodes aired, there was radio silence from MTV. Giving an interview in November of 2009, 8 months after the airing of Armageddon, Jake Hurwitz said, "I think it's still officially not picked up, officially not cancelled, but I think at this point it's been almost a full year. Over a year since we started actually shooting the show. We stopped holding our breath for a second season." Just as flippantly as MTV picked up College Humor, they threw them away, not even bothering to give an official cancellation, maybe ever. The show was simply forgotten by MTV and forgotten by audiences. Wait, if it's still not officially cancelled, we can still save it. Everyone, petition MTV for the College Humor Show Season 2. The College Humor Show is far from the worst comedy ever made. One thing I do like about it is that it's not trying to do anything but be funny. It's constantly throwing jokes at you, and obviously they don't always succeed, but thanks to the quantity, you do get a few chuckles. There's a lot of kinda funny in this show. Really, I think the biggest issue with this show is that Sam Reich and the crew were just not ready to be thrown onto real TV on their own without any sort of guidance. They needed at least some real sitcom directors to shape the show into a real sitcom. Time Magazine's TV critic praised the show and its creators for knowing the medium, doing comedy that specifically works on television as opposed to simply porting over viral videos to a slightly bigger screen. I simply cannot agree. It feels like a web show. It does veer closer to sitcom formatting than their web shorts did, but so did some other better web series like, say, Theater Class. The longer runtime really only serves to make these episodes a little bit exhausting. But I'd like to end on a positive note by giving the College Humor guys some credit. First of all, as I've said, it's not their fault the show doesn't work. It seems like they had no support. MTV apparently just said, "Do your thing, but in a 22-minute format." As hard as I've been on Sam Reich, he did not stop working in the medium of television after this, and he has seen great success after founding College Humor's production company, Big Breakfast, which produced several shows for television, including Kevin Hart's Muscle Car Crew on Motor Trend, but also most notably, Adam Ruins Everything on True TV, possibly College Humor's most popular and well-recognized spin-off. He also, of course, founded the streaming service Dropout.tv, which, since actual broadcast TV is basically necrotic at this point, is practically akin to finally getting not just one real TV series out of College Humor, but however many are on Dropout. The College Humor Show was just an early attempt for what they've been pretty successfully doing for the past 7 years with Dropout, though from what I can tell they focus on game shows and other unscripted comedy as opposed to the scripted sitcom format, which makes sense from a production and consumer standpoint, but it does kinda suck that scripted comedy is dead online, on TV, pretty much everywhere. Actually, never mind, it doesn't matter. Everything's dead or dying. College Humor, dead. MTV, dead. TV in general, dead. Movies, dead. It's all just content now. Embrace the content. When you think about it that way, the College Humor Show starts to look a whole lot better.